Let me start it up, and I guess we'll just keep talking back and forth because that's probably what we would do anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to give my theory on the Bioshock ending. And
I'll tell you what I agree with or what I disagree with afterward, and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm very excited to see what Slasher here thinks, because I think the game has left it up to the person to kind of decide what they want to view it as. So this is obviously spoilers.
Spoiler.
In the end, basically what happens is you find out Elizabeth is Anna, who is your daughter.
Yes.
And she can tear and go into these universes, and it's almost time travel in a way, except it makes a bunch of different universes depending on the decision. And Booker is, what the fuck is his name? Comshak?
It's Zachary Comstock. Now you made me forget. Comstock.
So he is Comstock. Booker is Comstock.
Yes.
And what the game kind of pushes at the end is, no matter what you do, you're going to become Comstock. You can't change that unless you kill yourself. Now, that was kind of the deciding thing. Now, everything else is left up to interpretation of what has happened here. What universes are real? What universes still exist? This is how I view it. This is my total ending. Once you find this out, I talked to my friend, and this is what we've come up with. And we could be way off. What we believe in, after discussing and arguing over it at work, good way to spend my time.
Bravo.
Yeah, that's how we sounded. People thought we were fucking insane. I basically believe this is what happened. At first, I thought that Booker killed himself, and that's it. There's no more Booker. He dies at that moment in his life, and that is it. That means that there's just nothing. My friend has convinced me that that doesn't happen, that he kills Comstock, and that moment, there's no such thing as Comstock anymore, but that doesn't mean there's no more Booker. The life is just different now. Booker, there's no more universe like that. It's kind of erased. I don't think it's ever erased, personally, but he says that he believes that it becomes completely erased, and now that's why at the very end, after you get through the credits, Booker's like, Anna, and then boom, it ends. And that's his new life, is just him and Anna. But then there's no Elizabeth. At the same time, there is no tearing, but that comes with, did Elizabeth gain the power to tear because of the twins? Those who are basically the same person. One's just a guy, one's a female, but they're the same person, different coin. Did she get the power because they funded the ways to tear? So, or did she already have these powers and Anna can also tear? And see, that's where it comes to the big argument: is what is she the only one that can tear? Is at one point she says she can make a reality. Does that mean she can actually change anything, or could she only change choices that are possible at that present? And that's where we kind of got in a lot of argument and trying to figure it out. And what we came to the conclusion is basically it all starts with Booker. So in the timeline, Booker comes first, then it comes down to Comstock, or he comes down to Booker that we know that goes after Elizabeth, who is Anna. And we got to figure out which one he becomes. And we know which one we play as. We play as him, going against...
I got some stuff to tell you.
Okay, so see, it's already changed.
Keep going. Now.
But basically what happened is when he refuses baptism, he becomes the Booker we play as. And if he accepts it, he becomes Comstock. What I think is when he refuses... the little Easter egg is when you play as with Elizabeth, she takes you to Rapture. Rapture is another universe. And there's theories that it's just another world, but in the same idea or same. What I kept telling my friend is what I feel they did is they have the similar story, just different pawns, or similar story, different scenarios. And that's what Rapture is, because a lot of the scenes in Bioshock 1 resemble the other game. I personally think that Booker is Andrew Ryan in
that world.
Bioshock 1. But he also, I mean, it's been a long time since I played Bioshock 1, so we couldn't really verify this, but in 1 you play as a clone of Andrew Ryan. And I'm going to ask you this, Justin, because you might remember. He's a clone, but do they ever explain how he's a clone, or do they just say he's a clone?
I can't remember, to be honest, but it's funny you're talking about that, because I'm actually replaying it. I was replaying it before we started the call.
That's funny. I thought it too.
Yeah, and it's something along the lines, and the reason I say that is because from stuff I've been reading lately, and the whole conversation is that those spheres in the sphere things, the bat spheres that you use to travel, they got locked down in Bioshock, and only somebody with DNA code could operate them. That was from Ryan's DNA. So in some form or other, he has Ryan's DNA. I don't know if exactly a clone of him, but he's got DNA from him. You know, because he's been programmed.
Okay, so what I feel is that Andrew Ryan is Booker, but I also feel the clone is somehow Booker as well. And people are like, well, that can't be. That would be, it wouldn't make sense because nobody tears in Bioshock 1. Nobody's going in alternate realities. But what if he did tear? We just never seen it. What if?
Hold on real quick. Before you say anything, it's funny you say that because while we didn't see any tears, we do see ghostly-like things in Bioshock 1, and I didn't remember this till just now playing. I walked in a bathroom, and there was like a vision of some woman, who all white-looking, like, you know, I was like seeing a vision. I don't know I don't remember if that game ever explains what those are, but there's definitely those things in Bioshock 1. I don't know what they are. I don't know if you'd call them a tear or whatever, but there are those things of like, what is that? I can't remember if they explain it, but that's why I'm playing through Bioshock 1 to see if I pick up on anything.
Yeah, and I got to replay it too because Bioshock 1 I haven't played since the release. So
yeah.
I agree. I don't remember anybody tearing, obviously, but that's the thing. We don't know how far these guys have planned back, how far they're going to go with this story. I personally feel there's one more piece of this story that they have to release still. And I feel they don't want to say it, but I feel this is going to be a trilogy. I'm not counting Bioshock 2, which I did love, but it's definitely more of a side game. I feel like you had Bioshock, you had Infinite, and in some ways, if my theory is correct or somewhat like it, Infinite is literally the prequel to everything in the Bioshock universe. And that only comes if Booker is indeed Andrew Ryan. Now, you're probably saying, well, how did Booker become Andrew Ryan? I mean, this is what we came up with. If he refuses to be Comsack or he refuses to be Booker, he definitely becomes Andrew Ryan, who has very similar thoughts to Comsack, or whatever the fuck his name is. I keep calling him Comsack. I'm just going to call him Comsack. And he becomes Andrew Ryan because he has the ideas of him, but not quite on the fucking religious level of that crazy nut. So, I mean, this is just speculation. Now, that's my overall thoughts of how it links to Bioshock 1 or any Bioshock. My friend wanted to throw it out there, and I didn't realize this, is why is Elizabeth the only one that doesn't bleed? And I think it's because she belongs to both worlds. Remember the part when she gets her finger cut off? It left part of her in that world as she's in the other world. So she can literally tear because she's part of both worlds where nobody else is. It's just made of choices, and tearing comes from manufacturing.
That's where I think she gets her powers from. And the reason I say that is because there's a voxophone thing that you find in the game that in Bioshock, it says, what makes the girl different? I suspect it has less to do with what she is and rather more what she is not. A small part of her remains where she came, and it would seem the universe does not like its peas mixed with its porridge. Now that to me tells me she was affected by a piece of her being left in another universe, and that is where they get the technology to tear, is they harvest it from her. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I assume that. Now, the twins are the ones that made...
Yeah, they made the technology.
Okay. But they never claimed how she got it. They never explained that. As far as I know, there's nothing that explains
and that's why that voxophone recording is really the only clue that can lead you to believe that it's due to her being taken from another universe or multiverse or whatever you want to call it, and part of her being left behind on accident.
Yeah. So my end thoughts is this game is basically the piece that we need for the final game to kind of tie everything in. And that's if they want to. If they don't, the way they left it open is, in my opinion, very big. You can interpret it any way you want, honestly, because there's so many questions unanswered, and they kind of leave it to the viewer to decide, how do you think it relates.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are my overall thoughts on the ending and why I like to discuss it. I mean, every time I hear a new theory, like Justin here has sent me a clip of Bioshock 1, where in a clip where what's his name dies? Some guy dies.
Finkelstein or something like that.
Yeah, Finkelstein dies. Right before he dies, you can hear this sound, and it sounds like
Songbird
crying when it dies. I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be just reused, voices from one of the splicers or one of the enemies. But if it's not, first I want to give credit to that team for fucking thinking that far ahead.
Well, here's even the thing. Maybe they weren't even thinking that far ahead, but if they knew that sound played at that part and wasn't supposed to be anything, for some reason they heard it and they were like, you know what? This is what the Songbird's going to sound like, and this is how we're going to tie it in. That still alone is genius.
Yeah, and I definitely thought that was a really cool part, because they also did it at a part where you can't really hear it too well, but you can hear it enough where you're like, holy shit, is that Songbird? Mm-hmm. And I'm at this point, I'm just going to throw a clip in here so people can hear it. But basically, that's our that's what confused me even more, because then, okay, why the fuck would they be taking place at the same time? That's what I told my friend. My friend's like, well, it could still be just another universe, and it just happened in that universe at that time, but it's still all the other theories works as far as he's concerned. And I mean okay, so that's basically my thoughts. Yeah. I don't want to keep Jared because I want to hear your thoughts, but
and my thoughts are pretty much similar to yours, but I think there's a lot more different meanings into the game that you can look a little deeper into. For example, the guy and the girl, the scientist that you see throughout the game, and they're giving you these tips and talking to you and all. They're always, like near the beginning of the game, they flip a coin and they're trying to guess, which one's going to get, heads or tails. And was it heads, I believe, wins every time, and he's got it marked how many times. What this shows is that they've been doing this over and over, and every time it happens, the same thing happens. And what I get out of this is that this is something they've been trying to do for a long, long time, which is to get this to stop. This thing is going on infinitely, which to me makes the infinite bring up even more so to life. Now, we already talked about how we think that Elizabeth got her powers.
Yeah.
Now, here's another interesting thing. In order for you to enter Columbia, you had to be baptized, reborn, and thus that is how you die. So that's kind of an interesting thing to take note of.
Yeah. But see, oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I agree, definitely. That's what they said, which just to me is another link to, because, when you get baptized, you go in water, is another link to Rapture. But anyway, that's what I thought when they said that, is another link to Rapture. Hold on, I'm texting my friend and talking about it as I'm talking to you.
Well, and then I was going to say, the same preacher that baptized you to turn you into Comstock was a younger version. So it's the same preacher when you come into Columbia, because he's much older. If you look at both of them, he's much older. These things don't really matter per se in the long term, but it's just the idea of it. Now, what is the Songbird? All we know is that he's the protector of Elizabeth. We don't really know.
Big Daddy.
Of one of the voxophones saying that people were learning things from tears, learning about music. That's why you hear some modern music in the game. They were stealing that musical stuff from, like, whether I guess you could consider it our world, since you're hearing our music. So they kind of almost break the fourth wall in that aspect too. Like, oh, they've tore into our world and see things from our world. But another idea is that they also saw things into Rapture, and that's possibly why they've got the what do they call it? The powers in this one, not plasmids, but the, what do they call them in this one again?
Vigor.
Yeah, the vigors. Perhaps they learned how to make vigors from seeing through a tear the plasmids. And same with the Songbird, because the Songbird has a very similar thing to what the Big Daddy does for the little sisters.
Yeah.
Now the other thing is that I think in the end, with the whole ending, is that she's basically saying, and there's always going to be a guy, there's always going to be a lighthouse, there's always going to be a city. And to me that says that there's these things are always happening, these events are always happening. The universe is infinite, and there's a tale to be told from every single one. And at that moment in time, as you see when you're walking on the pier and it's appearing in front of you, and you're looking, and there's a Booker and an Anna or Elizabeth, and there's another Booker and Anna Elizabeth. And to me, this was mind blowing, because to me, this was basically saying to me that no matter who you are, where you're at, this is all leading up to the same thing. While that Booker and that Elizabeth could be another player playing the game. And that one could be. Now, I'm not saying literally like you're online and you're seeing somebody else's game. But that's the idea, is that no matter what you do in the journey, no matter what choices you make in the game, because there's a couple times you get to make choices. No matter what you do, you are destined to hit that one moment where it all comes to a decision. And guess what? To me, I think he broke it. By killing himself before he was baptized to become Comstock, he ultimately destroyed any version of Comstock ever created. So Comstock has been, as she said, when they destroyed that tower and she was able to have her full powers, that she could see into all the different universes. So she could see the focal point of where Comstock could be erased and how he would be erased.
Yeah.
And so Booker figures it out, but he doesn't realize it's about him until that very moment, and he's killed. And then this is also why the end credits, I think, plays into the same thing. He was rebirthed, not creating Comstock, and therefore his daughter is still there, and he has a chance to live his life in his universe with his daughter again. Now, like you said, this opens up, though, the window to just any other game. And I know you said that there could be a third one, and I agree. I mean, there could be. But I think this would also be, if they didn't want to make anymore, this is a perfect end place, because it basically gives everything up it gives the player the imagination to think that, this is, I mean, it makes you look at, it makes you almost like you could look at the stars and think, is that another universe? Is that another universe? And that's what the whole story plays into. Now, the Rapture stuff, I'm not 100% sure that the Booker we play as is the Booker that could become Andrew Ryan, but I feel that at some point in time in all these different multiverses, that the story told in Bioshock 1 is due to the events, or at least is due to one of these combinations and offshoots of a universe. Because say in one universe I take a left, but what if I took the right in the other universe? What would change? And I think that's ultimately what this story is trying to say. And
Agreed.
And it just fucking blows my mind.
Well, what if, though? What if? And this is only an assumption. What if the reason there is a Bioshock 1, or there is this Andrew Ryan and all that, is because he is rebirthed as just Booker again. But what if, no matter what, his destiny is to become something like that? Like, you can't change his destiny.
Yeah.
And he has to become someone like Andrew Ryan or Comstock. What if, since he changed everything, if he changed and killed Comstock, what if killing Comstock created Andrew Ryan, who started Rapture?
And that's the beauty part of this story. Nobody's going to be right, and that's the beauty. It's open to interpretation of how you want to understand it. And that's a game like that, when they have a story like that, is the ultimate way to tell a story, because it leaves so much to the imagination, yet it didn't completely keep us blinded and not know exactly what's going on. It's like 50-50, and the more you look into it, and the more Voxcom things you listen to, etc., you can put pieces of the puzzle together. Like, for example, the Booker that we play as and the Booker in Columbia are the same age, but why does the Booker look so old? Do you know why?
No.
Because the Voxophone said that there was an issue, or there was something along with the effects of basically the tear technology and the technology that they developed that caused him to get older quicker. It caused him to age considerably. Now, here's the other thing. Why did Booker, or why did Comstock want Booker's daughter? Why did he want his daughter from another dimension? because he needed an heir to take place of his kingdom. Because if he didn't have an heir, it wouldn't belong in the family. Everything else that happened due to what he did is kind of like hearsay, because then they got the girl, because you found out that he was infertile too, so he couldn't have a kid again due to the technology. So because of that, they brought the girl in, which caused resentment from the mom because it wasn't her daughter, even technically. And then there you go, it's caused the whole role of him murdering his wife or having his wife murdered and blaming it on the Vox Populi and causing the big war. So, I mean, it's like the thing...
Yeah, and even more so, just to add on to that, it could be the fact he keeps calling you false shepherd, he keeps doing all this shit, but he's created this technology, right, to go and create tears and stuff. Why is he trying to stop you so bad if he knows that you're just going to repeat everything over and over again?
Because I don't know if he exactly knows you can repeat it. I don't know if the Comstock knows it's going to get repeated. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he might know, just because he's been working with this tear technology so long. I think he might know.
He definitely knew you were coming.
Yeah, and maybe he knows that if he doesn't become Comstock, there's another future worse than what he can create.
Well, here's another interesting thing. I do agree that he knows, because in the scene right before you confront him, there is stuff on the wall, and what's on the wall in the Zeppelin? There's pictures, like 3 on one side and 3 on the other. And I don't remember them all, but one on the left shows the statue falling apart. The very last picture that shows on the right is Comstock sitting or standing at the water fountain thing.
Yeah.
So he knows to an extent. Yeah, he knows. But it's almost like, again, we're stuck in an infinite loop, and then the two scientists are trying to do what they can to get this to stop. Because see, they got screwed too, because you find out one of the Vox things that I think Fink messed with their technology, and they got lost in time. So they've
You're talking about the locusts?
Yeah, the two Lucas.
Well, see, I have a theory on that too. I don't think they're twins. I think they're the same person.
I agree. I believe they are the same person from 2 different realities.
Yeah, that's why I love the part when they're like, isn't it funny how we finish each other's sentences?
Yeah,
Wouldn't
exactly.
it be better if we didn't? Mm-hmm. And I love that part, because that's where I figured it. You kind of hit my head. It's like, oh, shit. I kind of grasped the idea, but it wasn't until that moment they said that where I'm like, these guys are the same people. And I mean, like you said, it's kind of left up to interpretation. We'll really never know unless they come out and say, hey, this is what we're talking about and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think they will, because like you said, I think the reason, I wondered why they were calling it Bioshock Infinite, but now I can see they're trying to say there's possibilities are infinite.
Yeah,
like
infinite.
There are infinite possibilities, and like when she's saying they're not stars, they're different possibilities. All these possibilities, though, that she led to Comstock.
Yes.
But why did they show Rapture? What was the point? They didn't have to show that.
Because I think they wanted to show that somehow Rapture is connected to all this. Whether it means that it's connected in a very deep meaning or just a light meaning but I think in some effect that Bioshock, the original Bioshock, is an adverse effect from either the events that happen in the game or just from another example of how things can change from one thing changing and can totally change everything else. You know what I mean? I think they wanted to drive that point home.
Well, I was just going to say, I definitely agree. So but what happens if, like, we don't know how much the new Booker, the Booker that's alive with Anna, how much he remembers. And if he remembers anything at all.
And he might not. I mean, he might just live his life with his daughter. That might be it.
And I kind of figured that might be it, but for some odd reason, that scene throws me off guard. Just the way he says Anna. It doesn't sound like he's saying his daughter like Anna. It sounds like he was worried, like he remembered. Like it was a split second where he remembered everything.
And again, that's one of those things that, because here's another thing. If technically Booker and if Comstock was never created, and then they killed Booker, and remember how all of the Annas were disappearing?
Yeah.
Well, did that last Anna disappear because if Booker was dead, Anna would never be created? And here's another thing someone pointed out that I didn't even notice. That remember right towards the end when he's like, "Wait, you're not. Who are you?" None of the Annas in that sequence have the collar that she is wearing. So it wasn't even the Anna that you were with the whole time, which is another thing. Like, well, why isn't it? You know. So again, I gotta say that for the fact that there are so many details in this story and so many things tying things together, that it's just one of the most superbly told stories in a game ever. Whether you think the main plot is garbage or you think the main plot is simplistic, I mean, really, it's as deep as you want it to be, folks, and you could just think about it forever, because there's not going to be a right or wrong answer.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes from. So we made this video kind of just to throw out ideas. I would love to hear people's theories. I would love to hear things that they think. If they have clips they want to send either of us that kind of prove different theories, go on ahead. This one is kind of just a discussion about what happened and what we think or view it as. And I think, I mean, I said my piece. I mean, what I'm viewing, some of the stuff he said definitely makes sense, and I didn't even realize about some of the stuff.
Yeah, and here's another little interesting tidbit. It's not really anything special, so to speak, but I think it still is interesting. So at the end of Bioshock, I don't know if you remember the ending, but if you save all the little sisters, you get old, and all the little sisters come, and you don't see them, but you see them all grab onto your arm at the hospital.
Yeah, don't they all get married and shit?
Yeah, or whatever, right? Well, think about this. In the ending of Infinite, you've got all the girls looking down at you. So in a way, it's almost like you see what I'm. Yeah, it's like the same. And as you said, I believe that these series, they're very similar. But I think whereas in Bioshock, Andrew could technically be like Andrew could technically be like Booker, and you're you know, in the game you're playing as like one of his offshoot things. I feel like it's almost like reverse in Infinite, because you're almost like playing. You're not the bad guy, but you are the bad guy, and it is really more about Elizabeth.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Anna, you know what I mean? So it's like the roles are reversed and switched a little bit, but the themes are there.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying with my friends. The story can be similar, different pawn, different scenario. But what pushes my thought more of why he's Andrew Ryan is because you do play as a clone. But what if he wasn't a clone? What if he was just another version of you in a different reality? Yeah. They never specify, as far as I know. I would have to play one again. But they never, as far as I know, specify, or they just go over it. But if these guys have been creating these games and have a storyboard as long, it could easily be that your clone or whatever in one is actually another Booker. And
yeah, well, and remember when you start going through the different alternate universes in Columbia, you're technically in one of them. They were like, you died already, and so they're like, what the hell? So even though Booker comes with Anna into Rapture, doesn't mean that even though Andrew Ryan's in that world, doesn't mean he's still not Booker or not tied into Booker somehow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And another quick little thing I noticed, because I just started Bioshock. So when you get to Rapture and you come out to that main opening area, exactly where you see in Infinite, if you look out the window, there's a tunnel. There's a tunnel there when you get there in Bioshock. And in the game, after you get the plasmid for the electricity, you go through that tunnel, and then the plane piece hits the tunnel, and it collapses. It collapses behind you. That tunnel's gone. Well, when you're playing in Infinite, that tunnel is gone. That tunnel is gone, and the door is sealed. So, to me, if this is taking place, it is after you've already come through that section, which would then tie into the fact with the whole clip we pointed out earlier, where you hear the songbird crying in the scene where he's fighting that other guy.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That is. I didn't even realize.
I think my head's going to blow up again.
Well, anyway, our whole point of this is there's so many theories floating around. We would love to hear some of your guys' theories. And, I mean, that's really kind of our views on it right now. It probably changed multiple times throughout hearing more theories. They did this with Mass Effect, and I thought Mass Effect had cool theories, but obviously the creators just kind of dismissed all that. So in this one, I haven't heard anything from the creators. I think they do this on purpose to let it be a lot of, what ifs and stuff, and I think they did a fabulous job with the story. Now, besides, I've done a review. I said it was a great game. I do have problems with some of the stuff, but as far as an ending goes, you can ask for 2 endings in video games. You can ask for an ending where you are happy, you're satisfied with the ending, endings that come to mind that I really enjoyed that were solid off the bat. Infamous 2, there's nothing to really discuss. There's 2 endings. They said their part, and I enjoyed it. Prince of Persia is a game where it leads you up to interpretation of what happens next, but it's an ending. With a game like this, they give you an ending, and they want you to discuss it. It's a fucking J.J. Abrams fucking story right here. That's what the shit is.
Yep.
And, J.J. Abrams probably hijacked Bioshock. He touched little Kevin or Ken's dick, and he's like, "Yo, let's make more Bioshock."
Let's make babies.
Like, I won't make no more. I can't understand what you want to do. And he's like, "You ain't supposed to understand."
Yeah,
and that's what happened. Bioshock 1 and Infinite. So
I can tell you real quick. There's 2 other games I can think of off the top of my head that left me questioning a bunch of shit. Spec Ops: The Line had me questioning a bunch of shit as I played through the game. That ending kind of blew me away because I didn't expect that.
Game.
And that kind of blew me away. And the only other ending of the game that really kind of got me thinking that I can think off the top of my head is Silent Hill 2. The ending in that game blew my fucking mind as well. I know I've also heard that 999 and those 2 games have blow your mind endings as well.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And but the thing is folks, there's not a lot of games that have endings that are this well done. So enjoy it.
Enjoy that shit.
Yeah.
Lick it up.
Lick it.